Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now, here is the man who's about to bring you the TMZ of BB Scandal 2015. Rob Cesternino, hello everybody, and welcome back to our live Big Brother Wednesday night coverage of episode number 19 of Big Brother 17, as we sit here 24 hours away from the next Big Brother eviction. And we've seen the power of veto ceremony tonight. And we're going to talk about everything as Clay and Shelley, the star-crossed lovers, will be separated once and for all, at least for Big Brother 17. And here with us tonight, great friend of the podcast and Big Brother super fan, here with us for the first time to talk about Big Brother is the winner of Survivor South Pacific. It's Sophie Clarke. Sophie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm so great. I'm so happy to be here. This is so exciting. Big Brother is like my summer. I feel like I have a lot of friends over the summer because of Big Brother.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're here, Sophie. And I think some people might be saying, wait, hold on. Sophie is a Survivor, not a Big Brother person. But not only is Sophie a Big Brother watching superfan, Sophie has also been on the live feeds all week.
I have been on the live feeds all week. I even was on the live feeds before I was going to be on the show. Rob asked me last night, and I was finally tempted to get the live feeds after the endurance comp last week when I just had to know what happened afterwards. And I watched almost until like midnight, and I had an exam the next day. I also want to clear something up about like a Survivor on the Big Brother thing, because if you had a show and you had the live show with the Big Brother, I'm not saying like Hayden, but like a real Big Brother talking about Survivor like the CBS does with that guy Jeff, I would be so pissed. And I'd be like, Big Brother doesn't know anything about Survivor, why are they there? So I have to say, I understand if anybody's pissed, but I also have read that book, The Power of Crowds, and it's all about how when you're like talking about issues, it's good to have people who really know things and really don't know things, and like having all these wide disparate opinions brings up like new thoughts you've never even thought of before. So you can think of me as like the lowest of the low, but it's going to spur on all these great ideas that Rob and all the Big Brother fans never thought of before.
Well, Sophie's always great when we do the Survivor podcast and always brings some new thoughts to the table when we talk about Survivor. So I can't wait to hear what you have for tonight. I noticed you have a pen in your hand. Did you take copious notes during Big Brother? Is that what that's from?
I took notes during the episode. I'm so scared that I'm going to get all this backlash, but like,
no
why
backlash.
Is this stupid Survivor girl and this Big Brother thing? So I wrote down all the contestants' names so I know what their names are.
Good. All right, good. So excited to have Sophie here tonight, and also excited to have with us back here. It's Wednesday night. You know that Alex Kidwell is going to help us recap a busy week on the live feeds. Alex, how are you?
Doing great, Rob. As always, it's great to be here. I am recovering a little bit from a stomach ache I have from having my hand in every cookie jar, which,
yes.
Yeah, it's not recommended.
Got to watch out for that. Got to watch out for the cookies.
Oh, yeah.
And getting busted. So we are here live tonight. We've got the chat room open, robhasawebsite.com. We're going to take your tweets later on the show, hashtag RHAP on Twitter. And then tomorrow night, we are going to be back live for the Eviction Night special with Ian Terry. That's at 10:15 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night. So let's pick up the pieces here tonight with Clay and Shelley on the block. Sophie, did it bring you joy this week to see Clay and Shelley have to suffer through this tragedy?
Rob, I can't even tell you the joy it brought me. First of all, if you would see my text messages with Cochran all week, pretty much all we texted each other was Slade. I was so nervous about that endurance
Dragon
comp.
Slade?
As in like Shelley Clade Slade or Dragon Slade. I mean the whole medieval thing. I mean This week could not have been better. And then the cherry on the top is Shelley having to do that stupid like roundabout thing. Actually no, I can't even decide what cherry on top is. Right? Like first James wins, then James puts them both up. James gets the power of veto, and now there's this whole drama about like is Shelley or is Clay actually trying to stay in the game?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
amazing.
Amazing. I don't think I've disliked two people more than I've disliked Clay and Shelley on reality TV.
Why? Why do you dislike them so much?
They're so entitled, and I think James had it right. Like they really don't care about anybody but themselves, and they're so blinded to it. Like the way like Shelley just like bawls, it's like as if her face is melting to the floor. She's like a 10-year-old. She's totally a 10-year-old. It's not about her, you know. I just can't. I can't. And I hated the way that everybody pandered to them for the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks. I mean, I didn't understand how and why they were pandering to them. And now it's like all finally culminated, and it makes me happy that they were pandered to, because it means that they were like finally built up and up and up, and they were on this throne, and they had a higher ground from which to topple.
Yeah, it's always a fun ride when you go from the top of the food chain to the bottom on Big Brother, and it
Oh,
happens very, very fast. And whereas on Survivor, it happens much more like, oh, you got blindsided.
yeah,
It rarely happens where you have a slow descent into
yeah.
chaos and into nothingness. Then Big Brother, we do get to have some weeks like this where you have somebody who is in a powerful position just gone the long green mile towards eviction night. Very
It's
fun.
amazing.
Alex,
It's
can you
amazing.
settle something for me that I want to make sure that I'm on the right page on? So I can't really tell if Vanessa is very good at this game or if she is very delusional. So I want you just to talk a few things through with me. Whose decision was it really to put Jason on the block this week or this past week?
It was Vanessa's decision, but it was a decision that she couldn't make without the safety and security of backers.
But who was beating that drum the loudest?
I mean, to me, it was Vanessa. I think where Shelley and Clay really got into trouble is they kept trying to play the deny, deny, deny game long past the point of reasonable deniability. I mean, they kept trying to play the middle after a line was drawn through it, to me.
Because I felt like Vanessa really came away from this looking very good, and she was crying in the backyard about how I can't believe that Shelley and Clay did this to me, and everything was about how she was hurt and she was offended, and it was like Clay and Shelley were the bad guys that did something bad to Vanessa when Vanessa was the HOH who put Jason up on the block, and everybody's comforting Vanessa. But what I can't tell is if Vanessa is just such a good manipulator that she knows what she's doing, or if Vanessa is just so deep in her own BS that she doesn't even know how hypocritical she's being, and that she really is sort of damaged in this way that she thinks everything is a slight to her.
Yeah, it really is tough to reconcile these things, Rob. And, watching the feeds like I've been doing, it really is, it's head-scratching at times because at times I see Derek when I'm watching. I see someone who's got the 3 C's, as Rodney talks about in Survivor. She's calm, she knows what to say, she knows who to talk to, who to approach, and when. And then at other times, I'm just like, I haven't seen anyone like this but Rachel Riley. Like, this is someone who doesn't know how to catch themselves before they just go down the emotional hill. And, it is really hard to reconcile those two things. I think she's a great strategist who is just an honestly emotional person.
Sophie, you played with plenty of delusional people on Survivor. What's been your read on Vanessa? Is she somebody who is just super calculated in what she's doing and able to walk away from that HOH stint and taking Jason out that pissed off all these people and doing that as something that she crafted, or is it just that she is offended and slighted by everything and it ends up playing into a way where she can put herself as the person who is the victim, but it's not something that she calculated?
No, I mean, I put her in the brilliant strategist category for sure. I think she has some kind of internal moral code that she's following. And when somebody crosses that, as Clay and Shelley did when they really threw her under the bus saying, Vanessa put her up. We weren't part of this when they were doing deny, deny, deny. That crossed, Vanessa's moral code, and she felt betrayed, and as she should have. I would have reacted the same way as Vanessa did. And I also think that Vanessa, one of the reasons she's able to come away from this much better than Clay and Shelley is that Clay and Shelley have done this thing that I always say that survivors should never do, which is when they mix personal and business too much. And the reason they're up there is because Meg and James and everybody thought that they were their friends. They thought they were on their side. And so even though Vanessa's the one that pulled the trigger, Vanessa was always, hey, this is business. You saw the way she has conversations with people. I mean, they're all transactional. It's hard to be like personally offended by Vanessa, but Clay and Shelley is so easily to be personally offended by them because they act as if they're your like cool best friends or whatever. No, I think Vanessa is. I know she keeps saying I never tell a lie. I'm the most honest person in this game, and I know she is telling lies. But I think that she has some weird separation between the lies. I think there's lies that she thinks are allowed in the game, and there's just like asshole moves like the Clay and Vanessa, the thing that Clay and Shelley did to her. I think that she's a brilliant strategist, and I think she's going to win the game.
But when you talk about her moral code, do you feel like she believes what she's actually telling us about how she is the most honest person in the game and she isn't somebody who's telling the lies? Because I have no problem with her saying that, but I feel like she should be coming into the diary room and be like, I'm lying to everybody right now.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think there's a little bit of she is a little less self-awareness than we would hope.
coachy a little bit?
It's a little coachy. I mean, I wish she had a bit of Austin in her to put the whole coach kind of vibe out there. It's a bit coachy. I think that Vanessa needs to percolate a little more, right? She's like a strange girl, and I think that all of her layers are going to become clear to us, as the weeks unfold. But
Something that
I mean, I think she knew what she was doing when she was going out there crying, right? She knew what she was doing. She was adding on to the Clay and Shelley hate with the same type of vitriol and the same cause of vitriol that had put them up on the block, saying, look at them, all they can think about is themselves. And even me, who was on their side, they're not throwing me into the block. I think she knew what she was doing. I think she's not so good at realizing that as a character on a TV show, she should make herself likable to us.
Okay, now in terms of Shelley, she ends up getting this punishment where she has to go around and hit 2,400 targets in the course of 24 hours. To me, I'm saying to myself, boy, if I'm Shelley, I got a lot of work to do being on the block and everything. This is like a big waste of time. Maybe this isn't the best use of my time to show everybody what a true competitor I am, how I will stop at nothing, I will complete this task, and make sure I can compete in the veto next week. Whereas if she ends up either falling on her face or not participating in that challenge, doesn't she look at somebody, boy, Shelley really cashed in her cards here, and she doesn't even play in the veto next week. Boy, Clay is such a challenge competitor. Maybe it'd be better to keep Clay around maybe it'd be better to send Clay out of the house and have Shelley, who can't play in the veto next week. What do you think, Sophie?
I think I hadn't even thought of that. But, I mean, first of all, I think that Shelley and Clay weren't ever anticipating having to, like, actively campaign against each other. However, I do think that Shelley wants to stay in the game more than Clay does, and Clay knows it. And I think that would have been perfect, right? Like, if you're choosing between the two of them, and they're equal people, who's the better one to keep? The one who can't play in the veto and potentially bring herself off the block and screw up all your plans next week, or the football guy from Texas A&M? I think that she could have. I mean, that took her 24 hours. I agree. I say don't do it. Make yourself seem weak. Make yourself seem unlikable to a jury, saying, look, she couldn't even buck up and do 2,400 stabs or whatever, and spend that time campaigning. That said, I think Shelley's so unlikable that campaigning is useless for her.
Alex, did you feel that way at all watching Shelley go through this, that she was doing herself a disservice by competing so hard in that?
Absolutely. I felt like I was one of the most vocal people last year when Brittany did all the soccer kicks, and it was a similar kind of punishment. I really felt like I was one of the few people, well, maybe not few, but I was definitely one of the people online screaming, like, why are you doing this? People are looking for reasons to keep you right now. At least that's how you need to be thinking about it. And you not being able to compete is a reason. So give them a reason to keep you. Come on.
Sophie, this week we've seen James really bring his game into the forefront. He wins the HOH. He makes a very big, bold move for Big Brother. He puts the two people that he wants to target up on the block. None of this backdoor business. He wins the veto. He passes up the opportunity to take $5,000. He keeps the nominations the same, and he gets one of his two targets out of the house. We have not seen a lot of play in Big Brother like this over the last 2 seasons. Now, you are somebody who, in your game in South Pacific, was somebody who was under the radar, but it was a unique circumstance with a returning player coming back, and one who would probably target somebody who was making big moves like that. So do you think that this was a smart move for James? Surely he makes all of us happy by making a big move like that, but do you think that long-term this was a good week for James in the house?
I do, and I find the crossover Survivor Big Brother very difficult, because I think the difference is in Big Brother, I'm noticing that every week it seems like things almost reset, and there's things don't percolate into the next week. Granted, last week, has come into this week, but it seems like there's a lot more tit for tat, and I think that James' advantage here is that he's in a tat situation. They gave him. They titted him, and he's tatting back. And so I think that after this week, he's made these huge moves that he'll be able to boast about in front of a jury, and yet he hasn't overstepped a line, making himself into a big threat. I think that he's done it as a representative of a group of people, and that group of people have backed him vocally. Unlike last week when these people, said the next, oh, God, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to get out Jason. I don't think Meg or Jackie or anybody's going to deny that they were on his side about this. So no, I think that he has chosen the right moment, and he's struck when the whatever is hot or whatever.
Alex, our last two winners of the game have been people that have been pretty much people that have been able to walk around without getting too much of the blood on their hands, specifically in Andy and to a different sort of degree in Derek. They weren't the people that were going out there and really looking like that they were the people that you wanted to target. So do you think that what James has done this week is going to be some sort of a paradigm shift in this game, and that you think that more players will get up on HOH and make their move and take out two people that are targets week after week? Or do you think that we will return to a more passive type of HOH consensus building, sort of backdoor the person that you really want at the last second?
That's a good question. I think, just given the way the Jason nomination happened, given the way the Clay and Shelley nomination happened, I feel like, at least for next week, I would expect outright nominations, but I wouldn't be stunned if someone tried to take a different approach, because we've just seen that a lot in modern Big Brother. People are afraid to, to swing for the fence. You know what I mean? And James is obviously, he talked about it in the show. I'm someone who's not afraid to do this. I've worked in a prison for 3 years. He has like predetermined, like his background gives him a disposition to want to kind of like swing for the fence and kind of ride with his decisions, come what may. And whether or not somebody else is going to kind of adopt that, we'll have to see. I think Jackie would absolutely do that, but I think it speaks more to the individual than it does to the collective.
Sophie, I really feel like James is coming across really well this week, because he's coming across as powerful, and he's coming across as somebody who's a straight shooter and direct, but not mean-spirited. And I feel like everybody can just sort of like, oh, respect, James. I gotta tip my cap to you. This was a good move this week. Yeah. So do you feel like he'll be able to walk away from this without too many people targeting him for doing this?
This is why this week is so incredible to me, is because I feel like exactly James has kind of settled the score and everybody's respecting him for it. But my big question in my head is what's going to happen next week, right? Like I don't think James is on the hook for what he did this week. I think maybe Vanessa still has some issues. But what happens next week? What if Vanessa wins, HOH? Is that alliance still together with her and Austin and the twins? Is James still with his alliance? Are these all going to settle and recalibrate? I don't know. And I feel like James is fine. It's all like the story. I feel like the chapter 1 of this season of Big Brother has ended, and the second chapter is going to open next week.
So when Shelley and Clay go up to campaign to try to get James to use the veto, they ultimately decide to throw Austin under the bus. And they want to come out with this Judas story, and they're going to reveal that Judas is actually a different person than Austin claims to be. And I really like that James said to them, are you guys on some sort of narcotics at this point? What did you think of that attempt of a pitch to throw Austin under the bus?
Bad pitch, right? Bad pitch. Because first of all, it does exactly what you've been saying everybody's doing to you and you can't believe it. It's like a personal attack against your own alliance member, somebody who's on your side, and doing whatever you're saying everybody else is doing to you, which is throwing you under the bus. And what does James care? What does James care about Austin being Judas? You need to give James a reason that you're useful to him, not somebody else is more threatening. Like right now for this week, you're on the block. He doesn't want to get more blood in your hands. I honestly think that Vanessa could have talked herself out of this situation. I think Vanessa could have managed to come up with some kind of deal with James. She's more of a straight shooter. And Shelley and Clay, I think, just showed their true colors even more to James, because James this week was saying, I'm putting you guys up on the block because you guys are backstabbers. You guys pretend to be everybody's friends and you're not. And what do? They went up to James and they betrayed one of their friends, doing exactly what he said they were doing last week.
Yeah, no, Alex, sorry, go ahead. Alex, tell me, did James at all consider possibly backdooring Austin instead of Shelley or Clay?
It sounded like he was open to suggestion. Like he never wanted to put himself in a position where he wouldn't be receptive to new ideas. That being said, I don't think anyone was ever bringing a piece of information that was going to sway his mind. Like he was very sure he was making the right decision, and I don't think it was going to be it was going to be very difficult for anyone to find any way to sway that. Certainly the approach they took wasn't the best. I think, James had, they were the ones who saved Austin. So now to go to James and be like, well, you should have gone after Austin. He's like, well, why didn't we all do it last week? I mean, if they want to sell out anyone, unfortunately, the only one they have to sell out that might be someone they could is Vanessa. And that was the one person they weren't willing to sell out, even though she went to James first. So there it is.
I mean, or what about selling out Becky? Isn't Becky kind of going in between the two of them?
She is running the middle, but I guess James, I feel like James is the kind of person who's unlikely. Like, he'd rather go against the one he knows is against him rather than the uncertain. Yeah. And right. He likes to target big dogs, and I don't think Becky is that in his mind.
Yeah.
She's not high up on.
I don't think there's much that they could have said.
Yeah.
They deserved it. They got what was coming to them. I don't need to think of reasons why they could have been saved. I don't.
Sophie, here's what I really want to talk about. Something that kind of came out of nowhere on the show tonight. Something that was lower thirded as the BB scandal. And hashtag BB scandal. And so we saw after the competition, after the veto competition, I guess Shelly was in the diary room or wherever, and then we saw Clay and Meg, who apparently, I guess, had been drinking during the veto competition. Is that correct, Alex?
Correct. Yeah, they had wine out there, and yeah,
Wait, was Clay drinking too, or just Meg?
No, Clay was competing. So everyone who wasn't competing got to sit on the side and drink wine. And yeah, that the hug heard around the world.
Yeah. Now,
I think it was a little more than a hug.
Hold on. First, set the record straight. Do you know Meg at all? I know she's friends with Andrea.
I think I have once been in a 4-foot radius of her, and she had so much energy that I was expelled.
Was she drunk?
She was drinking.
Okay. So here's Meg, and did you feel like, as a woman, was she trying to seduce Clay?
I feel like I know what that was, right? You know what that moment is when, like, you're drunk and you're with someone and you guys can't be together and you have these, like, old, like, really old feelings that probably don't mean anything, but, like, everybody knows that weird moment. And it's not, I don't think, like, these are feelings that have been, like, pent up and at the surface for weeks and weeks and weeks. This is, like, in some dark little box that was locked, that got unlocked by that, sangria or whatever they were drinking. And wasn't that Meg saying, like, if things had been different, like if you hadn't gone and found your little girl, like we had a connection from the start. And I think that Meg probably says that to a lot of people, including probably a lot of gay men when she's drunk. So I'm not so interested in the Meg side of things. I'm more interested in the Clay side of things, because I thought, if I could act like Shelly, I thought this romance was real. And I don't think it is. I'm worried that, Clay may be a little too young for Shelly, a little too interested in exploring other pastures.
Okay, I think there's so many different sides of this to talk through. I did see somebody say on Twitter earlier tonight, and I wish I could remember who said it, that boy, Clay's real mom is going to be real pissed about this. And so, anyway, but going back to the Clay side of things, so what did you think? Did you feel like that was sort of romantic? Did you feel like, is he trying to exploit Meg for a vote?
I think he was sober is the first thing to remember, and right? Like, he's sitting there sober.
And he's saying to her, I want you to vote me out. I want you to vote against me.
I think that was some real flirting. I think that was some real emotion coming from him. And I think that, sometimes you, like, have a conversation with somebody and you match their level of emotion, right? And you do it if you're talking to somebody who's Asperger's, or if you do it with somebody really bubbly and you start getting really bubbly. And I think that Clay had enough feelings towards Meg to be able to match the kind of emotion she was giving him. And I think he was also asking something of her. And so when she was getting touchy-feely, he got more touchy-feely because he was, requesting something.
Going back to what you said
before. I think
before.
that all 23-year-old guys love being told that, like, I want you and I wish we could have been together.
Now, going back to the Meg thing, did you feel like it was really from a place of regret, or did you feel like for Meg, is she a little looking forward to the future and saying, like, hey, maybe this is something that could happen once Shelly is gone?
And once you're in New York and I get you drunk, right? Didn't she say that? I can't wait. Well, didn't she say, I can't wait to get you two to New York?
She did.
There was a lot. I mean, the whole thing was so, like, seeped in honey. It was hard to see through. But I think that there was a lot there on both sides. And I think, let's just say that if Shelley and Clay break up because of some big scandal, I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 2 months there's a drunken hookup in New York.
Okay,
right?
between Clay
Like
and Meg?
the scene is set.
Wow. All right, Alex, tell me.
I think.
Give me your perspective on this from your vantage point of seeing this play out.
Yeah, no, it is interesting because if we go back to, as someone who's been watching feeds, if we go back to week 1 before Clay and Shelley got so inseparable, Clay was putting the feelers out for Meg a little bit. There did seem like Clay and Meg might be a thing.
Now, what do you mean put the feelers out for Meg? Hold on.
Okay, all right, yeah, like
back
just
that up.
He was playing the handsome guy card. You know what I mean? He was doing the Drew Daniel thing where he's just making people feel good about themselves. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily flirting, but it isn't not flirting when Clay's doing it, and that's been his game at least until he kind of isolated himself with Shelley. He really was kind of talking to all the girls with a bit of a flirty demeanor.
So talk to me about Meg after the fact. Was there any sort of regret on her part in terms of like, oh my God, I got so drunk, what did I do? Or does she not even remember having this conversation with Clay?
So I don't think Meg feels like bad about the Clay and Shelley situation, but I mean, we're playing a game here after all for $1 million, or $500,000, but at the end of the day, I mean, she's like weirded out by, where this all is right now, how Clay and Shelley are like together, but, not together. I mean, it is just kind of strange. I don't think she knows exactly. I think she's just kind of trying to keep her distance until one of them, hopefully Shelley, goes home.
Sophie, what happens if tomorrow night it ends up being Shelley who goes home, but Clay stays in the house and begins having a romance with Meg?
You know what's going to happen? The whole thing turns into Bachelor in Paradise, right? I don't know if you guys are watching, but it's exactly the same thing. You get kind of this pressure to, like, you get this pressure to, like, pair off with someone, and so now, Jared is with Ashley I, just as Clay and Shelley are together, but Jared really wants to be with Jade, and it's not until Ashley I gets, like, or the other guy gets booted, he's able to then make the move on Jade, and I think the same thing is going to happen in Big Brother.
Sophie, did you feel like there was enough there to warrant Big Brother to put the hashtag on the screen, BB Scandal?
Hashtags are very serious business.
Yes.
I think there was enough there. Although,
okay, it was warranted.
I wish they'd done the little like air bubbles, Did you ever watch the
Blind Date?
Blind Date, yeah, exactly.
Well, it was interesting because we didn't get a confessional from either Clay or Meg about that, so we didn't know what either of them were thinking about this.
It was probably such a blip on their radar. I mean, it's 2 young people with hormones, right? Like, I don't think they're remembering it even now.
Yeah. Alex, did you feel like this was made into from a molehill into a mountain by Big Brother?
I mean, yeah, kinda. Because even in the moment, like they're embracing. Clay's sad. He's got the single tear rolling down his cheek. And then
there was a lot of bum to bum.
And the music was like sympathy music too. They weren't playing like the duplicity music. They were playing like the heartfelt stringed instruments. So like, yeah, the mixed messages. I don't know.
I'm gonna go back and look at this like the Zapruder film later on tonight, but I'm pretty sure in the first watching of it, there is a moment when Clay reaches out a hand and grazes a breast, and I believe Big Brother inserts a cymbal crash into that moment. Sophie, did you catch that?
Yeah, I caught that. I also noticed that although Meg is the one who stepped forward towards Clay with her feet in between his legs, he was the one who reached out and brought her to him.
All right, we'll go back and look at the tape on slow-mo, and I'll get a better report on it for tomorrow.
It'd be great if the music... Oh, sorry, I was just going to say it'd be great if the music was playing, and then when that happened, they just took the needle off the record, right? Just kind of the...
Yeah. So the Big Brother go-to trope. Okay. Alex, tell me, does it seem like the house guests are getting more alcohol this season than in the past couple of seasons?
Maybe. Like they're definitely... They're getting some drinks and, enough to get tipsy, and I don't think there was much of that last year at all. Like, even when they got alcohol deliveries, it was like we were rationing down to like a beer a person. So I think there may be some of that this year, and I hope so, because that's good for feeds. That's always been good for feeds. That's never not been good for feeds.
Okay. All right, let's get into some of these questions, and then we'll get an update on the live feeds from Alex. Let's start off with Snappy Happy, who says, do you think that Vanessa threw the veto comp? I know she said she was trying, but her shot was weak. Alex, any sense that Vanessa was throwing the veto comp?
I don't think so, because she has to worry about going up as a replacement if Clay or Shelley win there. So I think, I think she's trying to win, and then she's going to figure it out from there, but I can't imagine she would throw it there.
She did have the opportunity to take the veto, and she kept the trip. She kept the Ireland vacation and did not take the veto at that point. Now, of course, if you have the veto at that point, somebody's going to take the veto from you in the Yankees swap, but she doesn't take the veto in that spot. Does that change anything for you?
I don't think so, because, Vanessa's watched this game, and she knows that the person who takes the veto second ends up with the Knight's punishment at the end. So if you know how the swap game works, you know that, like, the last person is going to take the veto, and that the last prize is always bad because they want to see a veto for punishment swap. So, no, I would take the thing that's less likely to be taken.
Sophie, do you like it on Big Brother when they wear costumes?
I love it. I wish they were all in costumes every day.
You like the Knight in Shining Armor costume?
I love the Knight in Shining Armor. I love it when they're in the white and they're doing the little dances. I love anything that humiliates them. I love the Backstreet Boys.
By the way,
this is what makes Big Brother worth watching.
It does. Just go back to the BB scandal for one more time. That I really feel like the thing that really made it great, and I've been a little hard on Johnny Mac lately, but Johnny Mac narrating what was going on during that was really fantastic. It's just like,
don't you just wish Johnny Mac had more strategy? I mean, the guy's amazing.
I do.
Ugh.
He's very fun though. He's like, yeah, I thought Clay was with Shelly, and now Meg is around, and he was really funny. Really did a good job in that. He's a good narrator. I just wish he knew more about what was going on. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take this question from Sheena123. Question for Sophie. If you were in this season, who would you align with and why? Is there anybody that speaks to you as a potential ally?
Well, I would say from my experience playing Brooklyn Survivor, which is probably the closest thing I've ever played to Big Brother, because nobody kept any promises, and the game was switching like this, and like there were no alliances that remained formed. I was actually probably the straightest shooter out there, and so I think I would probably align with Steve and Vanessa. I feel like I'm attracted to Steve just because I feel like he seems a bit like a puppy who needs help. And I'm surprised that nobody's really formed a really tight, bond final two with him, to my knowledge. I think Vanessa has something going on with him. But I think Steve and Vanessa.
Sophie, I'm glad you brought up Steve, because I hadn't really thought about this. Now, you played with Cochran in your first season. Do you see Steve potentially as a Cochran? And Cochran in South Pacific is a different animal than the Cochran that shows up in Survivor Caramoan, but a lot of it, I think, has to do with self-confidence, and he's in a season in South Pacific where people are just hating him from the moment he shows up on that beach, or at least he's perceiving that they hate him, and then he's doing things that make him be hated by that group of people. Do you feel like for Steve, is he having a hard time finding his footing a la Cochran in South Pacific because the people in the house aren't giving him a sort of in to be himself?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen on the live feeds and reading live feeds, they're kind of always making fun of him. It's always like, oh, Steve, go do this, eat this. The way that you feel like if you're picked on in high school, right? Like you're kind of like part of the group because they're telling you to do things, but they're like also telling you to like pick your nose in front of everybody, and you don't really want to do that. So I feel like Steve is definitely vulnerable and looking for a friend. And Vanessa, I think, sometimes gives it to him, but I don't see why somebody doesn't do really what like Coach did to Cochran in our season, take him aside and really make him feel special and make him feel like he's your partner in crime. And I think that that's if I was looking for a showmance that involved no sexual relationships whatsoever,
a nomance.
I would choose a nomance. I would choose Steve as my nomance, right? Like Liz and Julia have each other. And you need somebody that you can fully trust and tell each other everything. And I think I would choose Steve as my person.
Alex, do you buy that as Steve as a South Pacific Cochrane?
It would be very interesting to see. I think Steve definitely has more game than the other players in the house are crediting him with, and Vanessa is the only one who's very aware of what he's doing, and that's helping her. So.
Okay. Yeah. Let's take another question, and then this is Luke Adams, who says, we really saw Becky and Jackie start playing the game this week. Becky has been playing the middle pretty poorly, so what is her best move going forward? Sophie, where do you see Becky moving on from here?
I mean, I think Becky is exactly what Luke Adams is saying, is playing the middle super poorly. I think that the people who are going to feel most betrayed by her are Meg, James, and Jackie, because she really is just reporting information back to Vanessa, Liz, Julia, and Austin. So I think the only way for Becky to move forward is probably to make right, she might as well win head of household and make a big move. Because the issue is that at some point people are going to recognize that she is not on their side, and I think it's better for her to do that while she's head of household and have the power than for people to realize that when she has no power and then to get her out. So I think she needs to make a big move a la James, show people where her stake is, and then play it out from there. I hope it's not next week for her, because I think that's a little too early. She'll still have too many enemies, but I don't think she can ride this line much further.
And I actually see it the other way. I feel like she's sort of fine in doing what she's doing because nobody is coming after her. And I don't know if she's playing a game that could ever win, but it seems like she's playing a really good game, at least to get to the final two, final three. And I don't know if she has that game in her to go ahead and make a big move at this point in time. Alex, what do you think on Becky?
I'll just say, I think, obviously I think the middle is where you want to be in the Big Brother house. So from that standpoint, she's where she needs to be. I don't know that she has the skills to stay there. And to me, it's more a question of, yes, she's going to need a point where she wins some power and secures an alliance for herself. Otherwise, this is a sinking ship here.
Okay. Sophie,
I also worry after this whole reshuffle of next week that nobody's going to want to make a big power move against either alliance. Like Meg, James, and Jackie aren't going to want to go against a twin, and Vanessa's not going to want to get James out. I feel like they're going to want to go for the middle to let it settle down a little bit. So I feel like next week she might be at risk.
All right, we're about to talk live feeds, but first let me take a moment and thank a sponsor for this episode of the podcast. Those are our friends over at Mazda. Sophie, do you drive? I know you live in New York City.
I drive.
Yeah, because driving matters to Sophie just like it matters to you. She drives with the windows down, wind blowing through her hair, smelling fresh pine trees and asphalt, looking forward to these moments driving the car when it's just her in the road, no distractions, handling every curve, kind of like how Clay did earlier tonight, and feeling every nuance in the road. So ask yourself, does driving matter to you? Because if it does, we build cars just for you, because to us, driving matters. Mazda, let's talk live feeds.
The Office of Civil Defense has issued the following message. This is
a spoiler.
Warning.
A spoiler.
Warning means that an actual
spoiler
against this country has been detected and that protective action should be taken.
All right, live feed time, and boy, it's time to figure out who is going home on tomorrow night. Alex, who will be the final person to be evicted pre-jury, and who will speak to me this Friday morning?
Rob, as of this recording, it is still not definitive. However, the votes seem to be aligning for Shelley to stay.
Shelley to stay. Sophie, does that make you happy or sad?
It makes me happy because I hate her and I love rooting against people, but I hate her and I root against her.
Yeah, it makes me happy because I think that Shelley will give us better TV along the way, and that Clay will not be as good. And I think it'll be fun also that the rest of the summer, when there's lots of pictures of Clay hooking up with all these women on Twitter, and that's going to be fun to watch also when Shelley talks about him all summer long on the feeds. It'll be shades of Gina Marie and Nick from Big Brother 15. I think that'll be fun.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
what do you think, Sophie? Does that sound like something you might be interested in?
I don't know. I'm so torn. I really want their relationship to go up in flames, but in a way, I'm kind of rooting for them, like a Whitney and Keith kind of situation. See them on The Amazing Race,
Oh, see.
Say yes to the dress.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think there would be more of a possibility of that if it was going to be Clay who stayed in the house and Shelly could be outside of the house being his
Yeah.
cheerleader all summer long. But I feel like the
Yeah,
other
you're
way
right.
around, where the cat's away, I think that the mouse will play this summer, and I think that there's
Does
not
Clay know how old she is?
She's 33, I believe, and he's 23.
Does he know that? Does he know it though?
Alex, does Shelly know that, or does Clay know Shelly's age?
I think they're aware of the gap, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Alex, I've been reading a lot of reports about how there's been some, the relationship has progressed between Clay and Shelly, where it had not previously to this.
This is true. Yeah, they made out last night.
Oh, hey now.
That happened for a while.
For a while.
Yeah.
Sophie, what do you think of this?
I knew about it because I'm up on the feeds.
Sophie was glued to the computer last
I
night.
even watched it on YouTube today.
Wow. You watched it again?
Yeah, there was a lot of smacking. It was really loud, but I imagine that's just because of the microphones. I don't think they were actually that loud.
Wow.
Are you being poopy head?
Yeah. Wow.
Also,
Nope.
there was it was like this weird makeup. There was like no movement really of their heads. I don't know if you agree with this, Alex. There was like really not much movement here, but there was like a lot of movement here.
Yeah.
It was a weird game they were playing. I think they were trying to think they could like get away with it.
Yeah, Shelly's
No.
the reason it hasn't happened yet is Shelly's been like so hyper conscious of not doing it on camera. So I think they thought they were like being discreet. I don't
Yeah.
Too many cameras,
This is
too
what
many
they look
microphones. No such thing.
And so where were they? They were in one of the the have not room?
No, they were out in the they were in the yard in front of everybody.
In front of everybody?
In
Is
front
this
of
some sort of
us.
a ploy, Alex, or this is just that it's the end of the world as we know it and we feel fine?
No, as soon as it ended, Shelly said, "Boy, we should have done that a lot sooner." Like this was just a genuine moment. I would love to say this was something strategic or some 0 hour, Ocean's 13 type situation, but no, these were just two kids exploring each other. Good
Whoa.
for them. Good
All
for
right.
them.
But I do think that they are so basic that they think that their love could literally conquer all.
It has been frustrating over the last few days to hear. I mean,
Right.
a lot of their pitches start in game
I
and
can't
turn
believe you would
into
break us up.
pity, turn into entitlement, turn into kind of this holier than thou mindset that is not
Ugh.
conducive to winning friends or allies in this game.
Or fans.
Or fans, right?
Fans.
Just batting zero right now.
Yeah, Alex.
What
now
I'm
talk-
surprised by, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Sophie.
What I'm surprised by is how clueless the people in the house seem to be about what the feedsters would like or dislike. Like they all seem to think that, that we would have hated Devon, and of course we all love Devon, and they think that we love, how can we break up the showmance? Everybody's gonna love Shay, and we hate Shay. We hate Shelly and Clay. I don't understand how it is, because we see everything. It's not like Survivor. You're like, oh, maybe something's going on that I don't understand. But they are literally clueless to what kinds of people that the majority of people in the United States like.
Yeah, the people in Big Brother house never seem to really have their finger on the pulse that the audience always likes the player who is the underdog, who is fighting back against the big alliance in the house. They always root for the little guy who looks like they're going to be in trouble, especially they love it when a big alliance gets broken up. And it seems like they never quite are able to wrap their heads around that in the Big Brother house. But that is always, with very few exceptions to the rule, that's how it is in Big Brother. All right, Alex, tell me about this vote tomorrow night. Who is it hinging on? Who are the people that are going to swing this thing?
Austin and the twins are really the ones up in the air, because you've got Vanessa adamant about keeping Shelly, you've got James adamant about keeping Clay, and so it's the middle votes that are going to be swinging. And the reason I say Shelly is most likely to stay, because as of right now I think Austin would prefer to keep Clay. But Vanessa, she's been working. She will continue to work, and she's been very effective at convincing people to keep Shelly. Like, she's gradually turned votes the last couple of days. I would expect, especially because we see these moments with Vanessa just doing work while everyone else is sleeping. I just wouldn't be surprised if the tables were turned on James tomorrow.
Let's go back to Austin and the twins real quick and just talk to me about how the three of them have been able to coexist in the house when the last time we saw, at least in the TV show, we saw Austin with the twins, that there was a lot of friction between Liz and Julia about working with Austin.
So I think a lot of what happened to kind of reconcile that is Julia had been a week removed from the house, and she was operating on the information of the previous week, and the new circumstances is that nobody really wants to work with her and Liz but Austin. So she's not really in a position to like pick out of the list of allies. She pretty much has to like roll with the party guests that showed up. You know what I mean? Like, and Austin's the only one wanting to play with them. So Julia pretty much needs to make peace with Austin or just ride this game out solo because no one else is doing her any favors here.
Okay, so tell me, if you had to project it right now, who's going home?
I think Clay will go home. He's not, Shelley is actually doing some subtle campaigning against Clay, and Clay is saying, I'm ready to go. So, anytime you've got someone who seems like they're ready to fight and stay, and they've got allies, and another person who's ready to give up, I'm ready to back the person who wants to be there.
Sophie, how emotional do you think it'll be on Thursday night?
Oh, tears everywhere. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so amazing. I hope they make out, too. I hope that they can't even, like, contain themselves. Oh, my God. Oh, it's so
fantastic.
Wonderful. I can't think. I mean, this week literally was the best week. The best week.
You were very happy with your purchase of the live feeds.
I mean, I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
Alex, tell me about some of the thoughts in the house of Johnny Mac and Clay potentially being related. Are people really feeling that way?
Oh, Vanessa stirred up so much this week. I think it all started on Monday. There was an announcement from the, Big Brother sometimes will come in with the voice, and a lot of times it'll be, things we're used to hearing, like don't talk about production. But on Monday afternoon, Big Brother said, house guests, remember to enjoy yourselves. These are the good old days. And that just got people's wheels turning, like that's something out of nowhere, and people are like, it means double eviction, it means a twist, it means all these things that it didn't necessarily mean any of, and that led to, people are sure tomorrow's a double eviction. It's not, as far as we know. Julie would have told us. And Vanessa has, run with things. The idea that Johnny Mac might be related to Clay or Shelley. I mean, so much, or that he might be America's player. I mean, so much speculation has been thrown out there that it's easier to say who hasn't been suspected as what at this point.
Okay. There was a fake fight that was looming. Has it happened yet, Alex?
I don't think it happened. To be honest, I don't know that it's going to happen. You're referring to the Austin-Shelley situation?
Yes.
Yeah, so Vanessa had this plan, right? She called it Operation Redirect and Minimize. And the idea
the operation.
I love Vanessa.
I love any plan that starts with operation. Yeah, like surround and drown, redirect and minimize. This is good stuff. So yeah, step 1, out Becky as a rat to the entire house. Step 2, fake a fight with Austin. And, this is like, again, a Vanessa plan where Vanessa isn't doing any work, which is some inception. That's smart, and I'm surprised people aren't picking up on that kind of thing.
Okay. Anything else from the live feed before we jump back into some more questions?
Sure. Let's see. The house really, obviously James, if Clay goes, James and Meg and Jackie are going to be the ones shocked. That group has more information than they had to operate last week, but they still are under the impression Steve's a floater when really he is Vanessa's secret agent. So that could be dangerous for them going forward. Steve got his first kiss in his 20s. They were playing Spin the Bottle, and he kissed Meg, and that was a big deal for him. So I feel like
what a busy week for Meg in the Big Brother.
I feel like it's worth mentioning. Yeah, no, she's...
Wait, that was his first?
His first in his 20s, he said. So I don't know. It's been a minute anyway.
So
23, 22.
Is he saying that he has been kissed in his teens, and this is the first time in his 20s, or he is in his 20s and that was the first kiss?
My interpretation was he may have gotten a kiss in his teens, but it also could have been wording that allows him to, like, approach it from that angle and save face. Yes, exactly right.
I would lay a big one on him.
Yeah, you already said he would be your nomance in the house. Sophie, that's different. If you're kissing him, it's not a nomance anymore. Officially a showmance. Okay. Alex, I'm going to jump into some questions. Let me know if there's anything else that comes up from the feed that we want to get to. Linda Bryant. Yes, Sophie.
Can I go back to the Liz and Julia thing in the Twins of Austin?
Yes.
What if, right, because I feel like they're all screwed, right? It's like they're Shelley and Clay times 100. What if Julia pulled a Sierra and backdoored Austin without telling Liz and gained a friend on the other side in the process? gained clout for getting rid of Austin, got rid of a target because she showed that she would go against her sister, while at the same time not getting her sister out.
Yeah,
I feel like one of the three needs to get rid of. They need to get rid of themselves for them to last in the game.
It's definitely an interesting idea, and it's one that could potentially make Liz or Julia be less of a threat to not be attached to Austin. But in terms of the numbers that they have, that would be a move where they really would be getting rid of one of the few people that's working with them. Alex, do you see that as a plausible scenario that could happen?
I would be surprised to see either of the twins do something like that because I don't think they're. I don't know that they have like the confidence to make a move like that on their own, and they're both still 23. So at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like that's the kind of move that like it would be tough to go out and do that on your own, you know, away from your sister. Like I don't see it. But that being said, I
we
would
can hope for it.
Yeah, you can absolutely hope for it. I would love to see a situation where they recognize the need to at least be seen as separate entities, and Liz is like, look, I'm going to lock down the Vanessa Austin side. You go and just spend nothing but time with the Jason and the James the Jackie, James, and Meg group, and then we can compare notes, and we can just pretend we're not getting along. Like, you know, I think that's probably a better play than actually turning on one another.
Sophie, am I crazy, or do you actually have twin sisters?
I do, yeah.
Are they identical twin sisters?
They are identical. You can't tell them apart.
Do they have any interest in playing Big Brother?
They had interest in being on The Amazing Race for a little while, but then it never really worked out. They never had time. They'd be so good at this game. They're so manipulative. One of my sisters, I used to, when I was little, and she was angry at me, she would just come right up to me and stand really, really close to me. And then she would burst into tears and tell my parents that I'd hit her. And I hadn't even touched her. It seems like such a Big Brother thing to do, to make a whole story about somebody that didn't do anything. But they're
oh my God.
Yeah, so are the identical twins, are they just happen to be evil people?
They are. They do happen to be evil people. Because I think they always have somebody who's on their side, so they don't have to be as nice to the rest of the world.
Sophie, have you seen the pictures of Shelley's twin brother?
She has one?
Yes, you haven't seen this? That she has. Somebody
Googling this now.
Somebody tweet Sophie the picture of Shelley and her twin brother so we could get her reaction to it on the podcast.
If no one else has, oh yeah, we need a reaction now. You're right.
I'm looking at it now. Is he hot?
Okay, so I want to get Sophie's reaction to Shelley's twin brother.
He looks a little familiar, I think.
Okay. Let me take a question while Sophie's looking this up. This is going to be from Linda Bryant. If Clay stays in the house, what do you think he should do? Defect or stay with his alliance? Is Sixth Sense just going to fracture anyway? Alex, what do you think about this? If Clay remains in the house, do you think he should stay loyal to Sixth Sense?
No, I don't think so. I think at this point, you know, like there's little value in alliance that size anyway. You know, this is like what I would consider to be like the second stage. Like Sophie was talking about, this game is played in chapters or stages, and this really is, you know, we're getting to stage 2 here clearly, where, you know, big amoeba alliance is not necessarily the name of the game. I think what he'd be better off doing is trying to form some kind of tight little threesome with like a Steve and Johnny Mac.
No, he goes to Meg.
Or use the you know the, I mean, Meg's already, you know, she's already kind of laid the groundwork, so yeah, why not?
Sophie, do you have that picture yet?
I'm trying to find him. Oh.
Let us know when you have it. This is from John DeMella, who says, it seems that Derek and Cody are up to something for tomorrow's live show. Do we think that this is the return of takeovers or another Britney-esque interview? I saw that Derek had tweeted, apparently I saw this on the Big Brother Reddit, something about the live show. Do you think that Derek is going to be part of a takeover, Alex, or do you think that it will be just a old school catching up with somebody from last season?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. You know, obviously the fact that we've had no takeovers or mentions of them for like 2 weeks makes it seem like they can't just throw it in now.
Is that about the picture or the no takeover?
No, the no takeovers. I love the takeover.
All right, just for you, Sophie.
Get ready for a takeover!
Whoa! Yeah.
It's the best.
So,
but
I made that my ringtone.
But yeah, I saw the tweet from Derek, and I even remember seeing a tweet from Derek like before the season when Julie announced the takeover announcement, like something that made me think Derek was going to be involved with one of the takeovers. So I would be surprised if it's a takeover tomorrow, given the complete lack of information we have. But
Wow.
I think it's as likely as him just showing up and talking. So
Okay. We'll
Be-
see.
Whoa,
see.
he looks like Clay.
there it is. Ding.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Now,
I was
how did
waiting on
that
that.
change things for you, Sophie?
That's not her ex-husband?
No,
that's-
that's her
oh my gosh.
identical. That's her twin brother.
Totally your brother.
This is so sad. This is so sad. This is sadder than The Bachelor in Paradise.
You know, really, it's very Game of Thrones with everything going on between all of the knights and all of the armor and doing these tasks and defending the castle and now all this Lannister stuff going on.
Yeah, and then James's red wedding of Chloe this week. How about that?
Do you think they'll stay together? Like, would you put money in this relationship?
No, I would put money
No.
against this relationship. I don't think it's gonna work. I'm sorry.
You're betting against love.
Yeah.
Shelley's just got so much more life experience. I think it'll be hard to reconcile the differences in where they're at in their lives when they get out of the house and go back to
I
their
think you're
day-to-day.
forgetting. I think you're forgetting that he's a football player, though.
That's true. What day-to-day? Fair enough.
Yeah, I would be very surprised. I just think that the age difference is too much of an obstacle to overcome. I think that in Shelley's mind that they can go on and be Jeff and Jordan or Brendan and Rachel and be this post-Big Brother couple that is like the new next big thing for Big Brother. But I think that once Clay gets back to his regular life, I think he's going to not be interested in sort of making the Big Brother circuit with Shelley.
All the bitches will be swarming.
Yeah, all the Megs out there are going to want a piece of Clay, I think. And I don't think
Yeah.
that Shelley's going to be able to keep him in line, sadly.
Poor Shelley.
Ryan Noakes says, Clelly, you're trying to save yourself and your biggest selling point is Judas? Shouldn't they have offered more info about Vanessa and convinced James to nominate her? I think we're all on the same page on that.
Yeah, he was at least feigning being receptive, even if he wasn't actually receptive. So what do you have to lose? Give him what you have.
Sophie, did you like it when Shelley got the HOH letter from her dog?
Oh my God. I mean, of course she did, right? Were you surprised? It made it even better. I mean, she is a parody of herself. So
No,
stupid. I can't believe people like that exist, right? They
Uh,
exist. They're all over the country, everywhere.
what, dog people?
Just Shelley people.
Shelley people.
Weird.
Okay, let's take this question from Edward Morris, who says, assuming next week is the double eviction, who should the Sixth Sense go after, and who should the After Dark crew go after? Now, the double eviction is sort of a weird spot in Big Brother where it's like sometimes you take a shot at a big target in the double eviction because they don't have enough time to get themselves off the hook. Alex, who do you think could be a big target in a double eviction?
In a double? Well, the House has talked about Steve for a double. So I think just based on the conversation I've heard, you'd have to think that like people are inclined to get rid of Steve in a double. I think they would. I don't know if that's necessarily just because they don't want to deal with the idea of Steve campaigning, or they would rather just kind of, I don't necessarily know why, but I that's the one person I've heard brought up by multiple people in the event of a double eviction. I think as of right now goes, I think After Dark crew should target Shelley and Vanessa, and the other side should be looking at like James and Jackie, obviously.
Sophie, I've been watching so much Survivor over the course of the summer trying to finish up the evolution of strategy. Do you think, is that a thing also on Survivor when they do those evictions or those tribal councils where there's a tribal council and then there's a tribal council the next day? Does that change the target at all when they do them so close to each other, kind of like a Big Brother double eviction?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that you tend to go for a bigger target who can't campaign. You don't have as much time to think over the move and to convince yourself out of it. And so, I think that's why in general Survivor is different from Big Brother, right? You only have 3 days to come up with someone to get rid of them. In Big Brother, you have a whole week. And so I think that compressing both of those into one day, makes the whole thing a little more pressured.
Okay.
I think that you're also the person in charge is kind of more willing to make a risk because they can say, oh my God, I just had like 2 seconds, I just did it, and they don't have as much time to talk themselves out of it. I remember when I was kind of in that situation in Survivor where we had a double eviction. We had a challenge at my tribal council right after we evicted someone.
Where Whitney
and
went
I had
home.
the opportunity. Yeah, and I had the opportunity to throw that, and I remember in the moment I almost threw it for a second. I was like, if I throw this, we can get rid of Cochran, and I
Yeah,
really
and
I was
Cochran
worried
came
about
this close
Cochran.
to going out to that spot.
Yeah, and that I remember that moment when that last question. I knew the answer. I looked like I was unsure, and the whole thing was like I wasn't sure if I was going to throw it or not, and I ended up not throwing it. But I think it's a perfect example of when you have just a split second to make a decision, you often get tempted, the way you do in real life, to do something big and to like buy a lottery ticket or to get rid of Cochran or to go for the big dog and get rid of not Steve but Vanessa or Austin.
Okay, let's take a few more questions here with Sophie and Alex. This is from Scranton Analytics. Rob, Alex, Sophie, were you surprised that there was no mention by any other house guest or Becky Diary Room relating to Becky blatantly throwing the veto competition? Alex, can you confirm that?
Yeah, she absolutely. She really threw it. It really sounds like everyone was pretty clear on that. Yeah, no, I'm a little surprised we didn't get anything on that. Yeah, just another one of the stories that is left on the cutting room floor for time in the long game that is Big Brother.
Hey, we have a BB scandal to talk about. We don't need to talk about Becky.
There you go.
All right, Steph B wants to know, do you think that Vanessa threw the veto competition? Officially, we are all in agreement. We think she was trying to win the veto competition during the show tonight, right?
I just think it's too risky, and also we didn't get any diary room that suggests it. So yeah, my inclination is to think she wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. This is from Reality Comp Nerd, who says, why is Austin excited to be in jury with Liz and Shelley? Shelley is sad not to get to go with Clay. Isn't the idea not to go to jury? Sophie, talk to me about Austin's being excited about going to the jury with Liz.
Austin's so confusing to me. I'm not sure. Right now, Austin is saying he'll lay down his game for Liz, and he has. But I wonder, because he's a big fan, right? My understanding, he's a huge fan. I think as the game gets on a little more and people start making some big moves, I think that he's going to start realizing that the end is in sight, and he'll start sacrificing his relationship with Liz a little bit. And then again, I don't have much to say on this matter because I never spent time at Ponderosa, so I really don't know how great this jury deal is.
But Sophie, do you realize
disappointed in Austin
that when Keith got voted out and became the first member of the Survivor South Pacific jury, that there happened to be a 9-person jury that season, and if it was an 8-person jury, as if it was for many of the other Survivor seasons in the 20s, that Keith and Whitney would have been split up just like Clay and Shelley?
And they would have reacted just like Clay and Shelley, too.
Boy, so wow, just one decision of 9-person jury versus 8-person jury changes everything. We
have to give credit to Liz in this situation, right, though? She has Austin wrapped around her finger. She's not into him. You have Austin willing to sacrifice his game for her, and she's not going to do the same for him.
Yeah, she's like you and Steve in the Big Brother house.
Exactly. To Steve.
Well, Sophie's like the new Parvati now.
That's what they say.
A new side to her. Okay, this is Nicolette wants to know, while we have Sophie here, what do you think are the main social and strategic differences between a successful Big Brother and Survivor game?
I think that they're similar. The ways that are similar are this whole thing about like mixing friendship and professional. And I think that especially in Big Brother, where you have to be with these people for 3 months, you need to be able to have personal relationships with everybody and still maintain like your kind of professional realm separate from that, and be able to not be in an alliance with Meg and still not have her feel betrayed if you get rid of one of her allies. So I think that's very similar to Survivor. I think the biggest difference is just this. To me, it's mind-blowing the way you have to be. In Survivor, you can really avoid people, right? Like a line is drawn, you don't even talk to these other people. Whereas in Big Brother, you're sitting there and you're living with them for a whole week, and maybe a decision is made, and then the decision is, changed and then changed and then changed it all over again. So I'm not sure if I can really comment on how to be an amazing Big Brother player, because to me it's just baffling that they have to go through so many kind of turnovers. But I like what Vanessa doing, and Vanessa's setting kind of like a very clear rules, and like the way she gave that deal to James about, you do this for me now, I'm going to do something for you three months from now. I almost like that. It's like setting up the laws of the game so that they can live with like a little more calmly.
Well, I think in Big Brother, what is really very important when you get to the end of the game is that the people in the jury really have to feel like they connected with you and feel like you really liked them, and they are also at least rooting for you. And I feel like that part of the game is much more important in Survivor than in Big Brother, because you are in such a long season in Big Brother, and I feel like that there's more people that end up sort of like, I don't want to say to the degree like Dawn in Caramoan, but I think that there's a lot more of, you were my friend, I trusted you, and you betrayed me, and then I can't come back from that. I think that happens more often in Big Brother ultimately than it does in Survivor.
You know, honestly, I think a big part of that is just the fact that, in Survivor, the power is held by the group. And in Big Brother, the power is held entirely by an individual from week to week. So then you really do, like Sophie was talking about, you have to have some framework for everybody in the house so that you have somewhere to go for your strategic conversation. If you haven't had any game talk with somebody and then they went head of household, you should assume you're going on the block.
Okay. Let's do one last question here tonight, and this one is from Michael Pierce, who says, what do you guys think about Vanessa's emotions, and how will they factor into her game in the long run? Sophie, do you think, is Vanessa too emotional for a cutthroat player?
No, because I think that she brings it out, and so far she's brought out when she's needed it, and it's gained her sympathy votes, and it's made her seem a little more likable. I think she's not too emotional. I think that Vanessa, the cards need to fall in her favor next week. She's going to need a little bit of luck. I don't know if she needs to be head of house.
So many poker puns.
I think maybe one of the twins has to win head of household, but I think she just needs a week to settle down, to rearrange her chips. Vanessa is the only person I'm seeing in this game with some kind of long game, with some kind of like long-term strategy. I think she has one. She's building up Steve a little bit. She has the twins. She's making long-term deals. Everybody else I see just playing week to week. Even Meg, James, and Jackie, like, they were not even aware that an alliance existed. What do they think everybody else was doing for the last 40 days? So I really have a lot of faith in Vanessa and her long-term plans. I just hope that she has kind of a little bit of a buffer of a week to get things kind of reworking again.
Alex, what's your take on Vanessa? Is she able to pull this thing off?
Yeah, I think she absolutely can, because I think her strategy is just that much higher than most everyone else in the house. I mean, she really, when she's on her game, she's spinning them in circles. I think actually, I talk about being emotional like it's a drawback, but I think actually being emotional can be a really good thing in this game, because emotional people are in tune with emotions, not just their own, but other people's. And so Vanessa picks up on lies. She picks up on things that other people don't pick up on, and that's a gift of an emotional person. I know that as a student of psychology, emotional people are more prone to pick up on the emotions of others. So in that sense, it's a huge, huge strength. The drawback comes where she's not able to like catch herself before blowing off at somebody when something irks her, and that's just like the one thing that could bite her. I think she's in as good a spot as most though right now.
It's interesting that she has some similarities in terms of the amount of control she has over a number of people in the house, a la a Derek, probably to a lesser degree as Derek, but it's certainly something that you could make the parallels to. But she's a player with a lot more flaws than Derek. So it's going to be a much more compelling case down the stretch to see if her flaws are going to screw up what could potentially be a runaway game if she was able to correct some of the errors in her game.
I can also see her making the coach mistake where she gets to the end and she's done all this, and maybe she then still can't give up on this whole I'm honest, I'm loyal, I'm the most trustworthy person in the game, and everybody wants her just to say, hey, Vanessa, you screwed us all over, and you did it better than us, but you screwed us all over. I could see her getting into that same situation.
Yeah, I could see it too. Like, no, that's not actually what happened, and I actually... Well, I did play with a different sort of levels and honor, loyalty, integrity brought into this game. So I think that will be very fun to watch down the home stretch. By the way, Derek will be joining us on the podcast next week. He's going to be on with us on our voicemail show this Monday. So look forward to catching up with Derek for the first time in Big Brother 17 next week on the podcast. Sophie, you did such a great job tonight.
Oh.
All right, but we need a hashtag now.
Hashtag.
Now we need a hashtag. What do you got, Sophie? We talked about the BB scandal.
What about no-mance?
Nomance? Okay, sure. Nomance it is. That's your hashtag for a BB17 Wednesday recap. Of course, follow Sophie on Twitter because you got to get Sophie while you can because then she quits Twitter every now and then.
I
At
haven't
Sophie
quit
G
Twitter,
Clarke.
but I have deleted all my tweets.
Why do you do that? What makes you wake up one day and say, I got to delete all my tweets? And
I don't know. I have a new job, and I had to, clear my
Got
social
it.
media.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're back for a while.
Yeah.
And you're pumped
Back
up for Survivor?
Back for good.
You're pumped up for
Oh my
Survivor for the
God,
fall?
I can't. I'm like, my heart is aflutter.
Yeah, it's exciting.
No spoilers.
Good. Well, look, I hope it can be as good as this Big Brother season is because this has been
I don't think it's possible. Are they going to be in costumes? I don't think so.
That would be great if they brought the humilitards into Survivor. That would be fantastic. All right, follow Alex Kidwell on Twitter as well. He's at Alex Kidwell. Alex, any parting thoughts tonight?
It's such an interesting game. It's been such a great week. This is the week people were waiting for to see, the power flip, and yeah, I'm excited to see where we go from here.
All right, call your shot, Sophie. The next HOH is who?
The next HOH is Julia.
Julia. Wow. Alex?
That would be very interesting. I have a feeling she would be getting a lot of information coming at her very quickly, and I don't know how she would respond to it. I would like to watch that.
Yeah. I think that Julia, I would bet against Julia as the next HOH, especially if it's any sort of trivia comp, because she is, like, between her and Liz, they've split up such a short amount of time in the house. So if it's anything about the other people in the house or knowing people, I think that she'd be hard-pressed to be the person that wins that, especially it was an endurance comp last week. Alex, any sense of what the HOH competition could be this week?
No. Right now they're having their Big Brother's giving them a halfway party tonight. So feeds were down, but it's not for like practicing an HOH or anything. It's just I think they're having a little shindig, try to relieve some stress in there tonight.
Yeah. Okay. I'm rooting for Jackie. I want to see Jackie HOH. So we'll see. All right. Everybody, thank you guys so much. Great show tonight. For more on Sophie, we're going to be able to drop our Evolution Strategy Chapter 23 South Pacific this Friday, so be on the lookout for that. Sophie, we did a whole deep dive into South Pacific, probably like 10 or 11 hours on Survivor South Pacific, if not longer.
Oh, shit. Oh, God.
Coming up on Friday. Get ready for that. Everybody have a great night. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow night with Ian Terry, 10:15 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody. Bye.